welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to do something that I personally really enjoyed watching before I moved to Korea. Today's topic is 10 things I didn't know about Korea before moving here. I used to eat this type of videos up before I lived here. Like, I love those. Or like 10 things I hate about living in Korea, 10 things I love about living in Korea. Before I start, just a general disclaimer. Some of these points tend to be a little generalizing. Some of these things are not exclusive to Korea, so just take everything with a grain of salt and let's jump right in. Number one, if you're a non-Korean woman, many Korean people will assume that you're easy and not serious. I don't even feel comfortable talking about this, but it is a truth. It is something that I still notice till this day. Even if you're not out in the dating world trying to meet new people, even if you already are in a committed relationship, you will notice this attitude from how other people see you in your relationship. A very recent example. Oh, this actually infuriated me, but I just didn't show any reaction. I think it was last month or like 2 months ago. My boyfriend and I, we called a taxi and we were getting in the taxi and the taxi driver asked my boyfriend, "Where are you going?" "Oh, I assume a motel." I was like, what? Did I just hear right? Every time someone says something in Korean that I think is really rude or really scandalous, I try to tell myself that I misheard it or that I'm wrong and that's not what they meant. And then later when I confirm, it actually is what I thought it was. It's just so rude. Like, why are you assuming we're going to a motel just because I'm not? Oh, I was like, I'm gonna report him. I wanted to report him, but then I thought I cannot deal with all that. Maybe I should have reported him. For those of you who are not in a committed relationship, if you come to Korea, just beware of all these guys that will try to get in your pants unless you want to be gotten in the pants. Okay, you know what I'm talking about, okay? Just be careful about people's intentions. Number two, this point is something that I think exists globally, but it's definitely very, very, very amplified and present in Korea. Status and status symbols are everything. They decide how much people will respect you. As an example, everybody drives like the craziest cars, no matter how much money they have or don't have. Everybody has insane cars. For example, in Switzerland, people drive really random cars, no matter how much money they have. And then here, I think people tend to lease really good cars, even if they have to take a credit. But other than cars, also your job. If you have a high-paying job, let's say you're a doctor or a lawyer, people will respect you more. Which, as I said, it's a kind of a global thing. If you are a doctor, if you're a lawyer, if you're a judge or whatever, you will be respected anywhere. But I do think it's very, very amplified here in Korea. Even your Instagram following, I'm not kidding, or who you're friends with. Let me make an example because the Instagram following and who you're friends with kind of sounds silly if you don't understand the context behind it. One time I was introduced to a friend of a friend. That friend was really not interested in me at all, barely even looked at me or barely even said hi to me. But the second my friend mentioned that I was doing social media, her attitude changed so much and I just thought that was so weird. Why does it matter that much? Or like when people find out that some of my friends are really cool people, like also then the attitude really changes. There's even this expression in Korean, which is 있어 보이다 and 없어 보이다. 있어 보이다 means it looks like you have good things, and then 없어 보이다 means like it looks like you don't have it. Another good example that I could make is when I went to Seoul Fashion Week, it would be 없어 보이다, looking like I don't have, if I would not have a car drive me there and just go there by walking. And then people would kind of judge your success based on that, you know? It's so hard to describe that, but it's just like people really look at what you have and what you don't have to kind of put you in some type of success hierarchy. And if you're on their level or on a level that's higher than them, then they will respect you. And if you're lower than that, then you're not really worth looking at, I guess. Take it with a grain of salt. Not everybody is like that. The next thing I noticed living here is that people pleasing is on a whole other level. People pleasing and avoiding conflict, I think they go hand in hand. For example, being overly kind even to people you hate, or no open communication about disagreements, or like ghosting in dating. There used to be this girl I thought I was friends with, but she actually didn't like me at all. But I thought she liked me. She would say, let's go drink a coffee together next time. I didn't know back then that that's like a thing you just say. Now I know, like people will tell you, oh, let's go for a meal next time, or let's go for a coffee next time. If they say next time, like 나중에, just know they don't mean it. If they do mean it, they will reach out to you and ask you when you're available. If they just say, let's do blah blah next time, they don't mean it. Also, like in a work setting, if one of your higher ups says something and you disagree, you don't disagree. People tend to do it very, very indirectly, because if you're too straightforward with your disagreements, it's like not taken that well. Maybe I should have put these points separate, like people pleasing and avoiding conflict. But it's definitely there, especially in the workspace. You have to be careful in the way you communicate to make sure that your disagreements don't get misunderstood by important people. Blind dates are very common here. When I say blind dates, I mean it's very common that if you're single, that one of your friends will introduce you to someone they think suits you really well, and then you will basically meet that person that they think suits you. You'll have a blind date with them. Let's say if I was single, it would be really normal in Korea to ask my friends to set me up with someone who they think will suit me. One thing I've experienced a lot, for example, is that people ask me to set them up with my boyfriend's friends. It's very common. Excessive alcohol consumption is very, very normalized here. I personally think there are a lot of alcoholics that are not aware that they're alcoholics. There used to be this one guy, friends with someone very close to me. He drank alcohol every single day. I was like, he's an alcoholic. Everyone was like, no, he just likes drinking. I'm like, he's an alcoholic. But it's like so normal. It's very interesting, and alcohol is also really ingrained in the working culture. So people will go drinking together after work. And if you don't join the drinking after work, you might be seen as not participating in the team. There's a lot of pressure as well to join these type of excessive alcohol outings. I do think that with the new generation it starts changing, but there are still people from the older generations, of course, inside companies, so it's still definitely a thing. This is kind of related to the alcohol thing, kind of not, but one thing I also noticed in Korea, and I did not know this, you don't pour your own drink. What I mean by that is, let's say you're sitting across from me, I will pour your drink, and then as I take the bottle and try to pour it in my cup, you have to take the bottle and pour it for me. I don't think Koreans will expect it from you if you're not Korean, but if you do it, it will be seen in a really good light, I think. Something funny happened to me once related to drinking. So usually if you drink alcohol in front of people who are older than you or have a higher job rank, usually if you take a shot or whatever, you don't face them and drink it, you turn away and drink it like this, right? With that in the back of my mind, one time I went to a cafe with my boyfriend and his mom. Actually, it wasn't a cafe, it was a really cute tea house. So she poured me some tea, and the tea was in like really small cup. And she was like, okay, drink it. I'm like, okay. And I take the tea and I drink it like this. And then both her and my boyfriend giggled a bit. I was like, what? Do I not need to face away? They're like, no, you only do that with alcohol. I felt really embarrassed, but I don't think they saw it as embarrassing. Next point. Things come and go really fast. What I mean by that is trends. Not just trends for clothes, but also food can be really trendy here. I'm sure you've seen tanghuru on social media, like these sticks with strawberries and the sugar coating on them. Tanghuru, that's like a huge trend here right now. Of course, it existed before. You can see when a type of food starts trending in Korea, suddenly a bunch of stores that sell that thing pop up out of nowhere, and then after a year they all just disappear. It's one thing that I also noticed is, for example, sogumpang. It's like this small bread with salt. Bread used to be only sweet in Korea, but sogumpang is one of the few sorts of bread here that are not sweet at all. I'm curious to see if sogumpang is also gonna disappear, because right now every cafe has sogumpang. Another trend is waffles with croissant dough, or like just using croissant dough for other types of of bakeries. I've had a hodukbang, like a walnut cake bread made out of croissant dough. I do think that after a trend has been there will be some remains of it, so you will still be able to find it here and there, but it's like a huge boom of these small little things. Same with clothes. Let's say you visited Korea. A place you visited a year ago will look so different a year later because all the shops, all the cafes, restaurants, stores, they will all change after a year, as opposed to, for example, in Switzerland, where I'm from, everything's the same like 10 years before and 10 years later. It's the exact same. Which is why pop-up stores don't work in Switzerland, but they work really well in Korea. Like, pop-up stores are everything here. People always look for something new and get tired of it really fast. That's why brands and stores, they always try to find something new, something limited edition. Next point, most apartments are really dark. This point especially applies to apartments in Seoul, apartments that are not like super expensive or like not family homes. But even with family homes, I think they're really dark. To name one example, it's very common that there are windows only on one side of the apartment. Where I'm from in Switzerland, the most common thing is that there will be windows on at least two sides to make sure that you have good sunlight at home no matter what time of the day it is. In Korea, that's not really that common. Like, it's very, very usual to find houses with only windows on one side, or like very small windows, or like really high buildings covering your window. In my case, the very first apartment I used to live in, that was in Busan, it was a small little studio apartment. It had one window, which was quite small, and it was covered by a building, so it felt like a cave. And then the second apartment I lived in, it was in Seoul. It had a window on one side, but it was not covered. So I guess that one was fine because the apartment itself was really small. So just that one window lightened up the whole place. And with the apartment I have right now, there's a window on two sides. It's facing north, so it's still kind of dark. I only get sunlight when the sun is reflecting from the windows of the building across from the reflection. Next point. Not sure if people will agree with me on this, but I think doctors don't explain anything. Nothing. They just do whatever they have to do. Suddenly your pants are down to get whatever shots. Or like they give you these pouches of meds, you have no idea what it is. They don't explain, oh, this is for your infection. This is to make sure your guts can digest the medicine. And this one is for that. Like, no explanations whatsoever. That genuinely stresses me out so much. Not just doctors for people, but also vets. When I bring my cat to the vet, they don't explain anything. And I'm always so stressed out after the vet appointment, but my boyfriend's like always chilling. What? They don't explain anything. My cat, he had mites in his ears. Of course, those have to be treated. He also had to get treated for other stuff like on his body, and he had to get these parasites inside his stomach out. They gave this medicine for the parasites. I was like, oh, can we also get something for the mites? And they were like, it will be fine. So I was like, okay, huh? And then later I checked and I found out that the medicine they gave for the parasites in the stomach would also help with the mites in the ears. So I was like, oh, okay, so they do take care of whatever has to be taken care of. They just don't mention it. And kind of related to that, my last point, asking too much is often perceived as doubting someone's authority or doubting someone's knowledge. This is very related to the previous point because I ask things out of interest and curiosity, but then it gets taken as questioning someone or not believing them. With a doctor example, I want to know what meds I'm taking, or I want to know what meds I'm giving to my cat. Let's say at work, if they tell you to do something and you're like, oh, why? Just because you ask why, because you want to know the reason, they're like, how dare you? Don't question my authority. Yeah, it's something to get used to. Oh, I didn't write this point down, but a last thing that I thought of is eye contact. Eye contact in Korea, it can be perceived as a personal attack. For example, if you're apologizing to someone, if you look at them and you're like, I'm so sorry, they're not gonna think you're genuine. So you should be like, I'm so sorry, like I cannot even face you. That's how you apologize. Yeah, those are the things that I didn't know about Korea before moving to Korea. I hope this was interesting. If there are any other things you have to add to this, please write them down in the comments. If you want to know anything else about living in Korea, facts about Korea, please let me know in the comments. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe, like, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye!